My dad has always seen spirits stuck in time loops. As an example, he said that in his parents' house, he would see a man in a coat would walk in and out of his bathroom from 2:30 to 3:30 a.m. He had tried to get his attention before, but nothing ever happened. He also predicted the future in a dream. The day before a bombing in a subway, he had a dream of him looking at someone that looks evil, that person smiling and then blowing up. Do any of you know why they are in a time loop, and why are ghosts attracted to bathrooms? Also, if you think this is fake, downvote me and move along. I don't care. I've never posted on Reddit before, but here I go. Lately I've been having issues regarding sleep. It's extremely difficult to explain because nothing like this has happened to me before until recently. To explain the best I can, lately weird shit has been happening every time I get ready to sleep. I've been hearing and seeing shit that vanish when I look away and look back. It doesn't matter if the lights are on or off. When this happiness and hearing a man heavy breathing either right beside my bed or on my ear. I don't remember what objects that were blatantly either flying over my head or something just straight up moving unless I look away and turn on the light. I feel a wave of dread and fear every time this happens. I can't sleep on my side without hearing loud fast breathing in my ear, and when I jerk back to see what it was, nothing is there. I've had lights turn on in rooms when I'm home alone. I've had my boyfriend sleep over and none of the events occurred, but as soon as we parted ways the next day it came back. To give context, I'm not a night owl, I'm not sleep deprived, and I don't take substances. I don't have any fans or devices that'd make the sounds that I hear. My house is dead silent at night, so the breathing I hear is unexplainable on my part. This was over 10 years ago, but I'll never forget it. My friend, male age 18, and I, male age 17, would always hang out, either skateboard, play video games, and smoke weed. We were still young enough that we were hiding it from our parents and would go out on walks or to a nearby forest to smoke. One evening, it was about 6 p.m., we decided we would go to the nearby forest to smoke. This forest did have walking paths, and a really cool man-made stair set that was embedded in the dirt of a really steep incline. There was even a long railing made accompanying the stairs. When we arrived at the stair set, it was about 7 p.m. and there was still lots of light left outside. We decided we would sit at the top of the stairs for our smoking spot. We were chatting, smoking, having a good time, just hanging out. After we had smoked a bit, we remained sitting at the stair set and we both got quiet, not for any particular reason. Suddenly, I felt/heard this indescribable boom. It caught me off guard. However, what really scared me was the fact that this feeling/noise seemed to come from every direction, including from underneath the ground. I remained silent for a moment after, absorbing what I just experienced. I looked over at my friend and asked him if he felt anything, trying to confirm if I was just high and imagining things. He confirmed that he experienced it too, and I felt my stomach drop. As we were discussing the sound, we didn't notice that within 5 minutes that the whole forest had been shrouded in fog and it was beginning to get dark. This was strange, we both thought, considering what we just experienced, but kind of played it off as my friend went to smoke again. Just before he went to light his bowl, a shrill scream shot through the forest. It sounded relatively distant but close enough to make us freeze. The scream was long, high-pitched as if a woman had screamed, and echoed. Again, we heard the scream. Louder and more distinct. Finally, there was a third scream that tapered off and then it was quiet. We were surrounded by fog and it was getting darker. At this point we decided to pack up and leave, both being very uncomfortable with the series of events that had taken place. We got out of the forest, which takes about 20 minutes or less, and there was no fog to be seen. We played off the whole experience and didn't talk too much about it, chalking it up to a weird experience at most. We ended up losing touch with each other later on and ended up getting back together several years later for his wedding. I brought up the experience to him and he remembered it just the same, and we both kind of laughed about it. It still gave me chills talking about it and having the confirmation that we both experienced the same thing. As much as the screams were strange, I'll never forget that boom feeling/noise. There's more to the story than just the title, so I'll try my best to keep it concise. Growing up, I had a huge fear of the light in my room burning out, and it is because of this reoccurring nightmare I had. It always took place in the early afternoon with overcast weather, and I was always home alone. Even though I was quite young, I'd always leave my room to go get something to eat from the kitchen, and then I'd start hearing loud thumping throughout the house. In my dream, I always felt like that meant something was coming. I'd usually hide under the kitchen island and try to watch my room from down the hall as the thumps continued. My light would always be flickering, sometimes my door would swing, and I'd feel this really heavy presence throughout the whole house. The thumping would just get more intense until my light would burn out, and I knew that meant whatever was coming was there. But the nightmare always ended there, so I don't know what it was. Anyways, I don't have all that many paranormal memories growing up. My room always spooked me a bit though, but I chalked it up to this nightmare I was having. However, around the time I was 17 to 18, things started getting really weird in the house. My sister would find her drawers open with her socks out on the floor. The animals never liked coming into my room, stuff like that. My mother and I thought we saw apparitions on 2 separate occasions, but since we both saw them at night when we'd get up to use the bathroom, I assumed it was just our tired brains playing games on us. The spookiest thing was that on regular intervals, always whenever we would be all hanging out in the living room, the lock on our front door would click. It was so loud and distinct, none of us could ever come up with an explanation for it. It happened no matter the weather, completely at random. We couldn't even mimic the noise ourselves trying to play with the lock. It only ever happened when we were all together in the living room. I moved out a few years ago, but even when I'd go back to visit and all the way up until I left when I was 19, I was never able to sleep without a light on in my room. My room was the only place I could never sleep in the dark. My family ended up moving out of that house almost a year ago now. Sometimes we reminisce about the things we experienced while we were there, and we've never had any explanations for it. My sister and I were talking about it one time, and I remembered the nightmares I had. I started explaining it to her, mostly because I was curious if she thought it had any connection to what we experienced in the house. I hadn't thought the two could have been related until then, and as I was explaining the dream to my sister, she literally started crying. Obviously I was freaked out and asked her what was wrong. She told me she had the exact same dream growing up, even down to the very heavy presence, which is really what spooked us the most. We always had a theory that something was trying to get into the house or something like that, but we were both pretty fucked up after realizing we had the same dream. It messed up our parents too when we told them. Just wanted to share and curious if anyone has any insight on this. I still have no idea what any of it means. I had to have an MRI with contrast, and that meant I needed to have an 4 after to push the contrast through my kidneys. The doctor was kind enough to get me a space in recovery where I could lie down and get my liter of fluid. Easy peasy, I thought. I was lying there but quickly, almost too quickly, fell into a deep troubled sleep. Things were flying around me, weird things I could not describe. I felt fear and chaos around me, and there was nothing I could do. Suddenly next to the bed I was lying on there was this immense figure, its head almost on the ceiling. In my mind I saw a nun with a stern face, with one of those habits like the flying nun. She was commanding and meant business. She leaned over me and put her hands on my body, and all the chaos and other entities went away. I relaxed and slept peacefully. I now realize that the angel didn't want to frighten me, so it guised itself as a nun. For some insight, Hachishakusama / the 8 feet tall woman is a Japanese urban legend. Information about her can be found by a Google search, and if it means anything, I am Japanese yet live in America. It was around 12 to 2 a.m. at night, and my whole family was asleep. I was sitting on a stool and leaning against my countertop while watching some random YouTube video on my iPad. Then I get this weird feeling wash over me. I am unsure of how to explain it, but it was like the atoms in the room were disturbed, grinning face with sweat, like a sixth sense, I suppose. I felt uneasy but surprisingly not scared, and I could tell something, or someone, was there. Just as I was about to ignore it, like how I usually do most other times, I could see the spirit or whatever it was out of the corner of my eyes. Standing, facing me, in the archway to my parents' bedroom was an incredibly tall woman. Around 8 to 10 feet without the white hat on her head. It was almost like a sun hat. She was very pale, almost paper white, and had long, pin-straight, black hair that reached to her lower back. I couldn't tell if her hat and hair were covering her face, or that she just didn't have a face. She wore a simple, plain white dress that seemed to have been somehow dirted due to the grayish/black mud or whatever on it. To say it simply, it just wasn't clean. She didn't scare me or made any sound. Only stared in my direction/at me. It was strange because I am mostly able to tell the intentions of any ghost or spirit that decides to show itself to me. And I found it strange how she was wearing all white and looked exactly like Hachishakusama, but I don't think it was actually her, since you would hear the evil spirit, Hachishakusama, go po 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 in an eerie voice before you actually saw her. So I'm unsure it was her, and if it was, I'm pretty sure I'd be dead by now. Anywho, if anyone has any type of input or ideas about this spirit, it would be greatly appreciated.
Like, share, subscribe, and be sure to check the notification bell. Follow the Atomic Shaman on Twitter at Motel and RV Park. Listen to Paranormal Green Text Stories on Atomic Shaman TTS on YouTube. Catch the live streams of Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge only on Rumble.